Grassy Posse Packer Nation, welcome to another episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom Grassi, and over the past few weeks, we've been doing some divisional breakdowns, and I have saved the best for last. And while I would have rather just sat here and done it myself and not had to worry about any criticism or just downright debauchery, I felt like I had a duty to bring on a Vikings fan. And so, with that being said, a longtime friend of the show, we welcome back Vikings fan John Parie. John, it's great to have you back at the Packcast.
Thanks for having me back on.
Absolutely. And I have to say that this season, while every other season, I've usually started off being super duper confident and that like we're going to sweep the Vikings. I got to say, we might even split this year. I'm a little concerned about your team.
Yeah, splitting this year I think might be actually possible because, well, the thing that I think the thing you guys don't have in your favor is we're playing you guys early this year, week 2. So we're not getting the full Lambeau treatment.
Yes, this is very true. And I don't know how I feel about that yet, but I got to say that your team over the let's talk about last season real quick before we even jump into this season. Last season,
how far back into offseason do you want to go?
Yeah, exactly. Well, last season, there was we the Anthony Barr thing, which was a thing. Let's just forget it ever happened. And that happened, and you guys started doing really, really well, and even going to the NFC Championship game, right? Which had to be just phenomenal for you.
Yeah, I think the end of the game before that was even better, but, I kind of blacked out about halftime in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that from a Packers perspective, the fact that you got to see us get destroyed by the Falcons the year prior, I think it was a little bit, I don't want to say karma, but it felt real good to watch you guys get destroyed too.
It's that Schadenfreude effect.
Yeah, exactly. But like you guys had a fantastic year last year, especially with in the midst of you lose your starting running back, Dalvin Cook, you lose your starting quarterback in Bridgewater, and Case Keenum comes in and I think played...
Hold on. We lost our starting quarterback, Sam Bradford. Bridgewater was the year before.
I'm so sorry. You know what? That's right. I am so sorry. That's right. Because he was out last year. He came back for like a hot second, right? And everybody cheered, and it was actually a very nice moment that even as a Packers fan, it melted my cold heart.
Yeah, I think it was the Browns game. We were up like 38-3 or something in the fourth quarter with like 2 minutes left.
Yes.
And he'd been suiting up for a couple weeks. But yeah, Bradford came in, lit the Saints up week 1, and then hurt his knee, of course, and then played against the Steelers, and then got yanked halfway through the Bears game. Yeah. Never saw the field again.
That is correct. I'm sorry, you guys had like 7 quarterbacks. I couldn't keep track of it. But now,
tell me about it.
Yeah, But now, like you guys just cleaned house, and you're like, nope, we don't want any of these guys anymore. And before we even
okay, I would say the funny thing you want to talk about that quarterback clean out. Case Keenum has already been removed from the starting position out of Denver as of right now.
Yeah.
And Teddy Bridgewater is balling out.
Yeah. Like the Jet, it's actually going to be like pretty difficult for the Jets to, but no one's talking about it in New York. I live in New York, and nobody's talking about Teddy Bridgewater of like him potentially starting the year. And so I am curious to see what they do with him. I hope the kid gets a chance because I like him.
Oh, he's going to get a chance somewhere. But if I was New York, I'd be talking him up because they've got their first round draft pick who they want to be the future of the franchise. They have their veteran, is it McCown?
They have Darnold, and then they have McCown, I think.
So Teddy Bridgewater is like trade bait right now, and like right now they're talking Jaguars of all people.
Yeah, yeah. It's a little. I actually am a tiny bit surprised that you didn't hang on to like one of those quarterbacks, whether it be a Bridgewater. I can understand like Bradford or a Case Keenum as kind of just like reassurance. But again, the year that Keenum had, I guess he kind of like had to go to another team because he was going to be too expensive.
If they wanted to pull the trigger on Keenum, about the only one they realistically could have held on to was Bridgewater.
Yeah.
But I don't know if Bridgewater taken the same deal with us that he took after he went through free agency and settled for the $5 million.
Yeah. No, I think.
But we
good.
couldn't pay Case the guaranteed money with $89 million and pay $16 million to Bradford and Keenum each.
Yeah, and obviously you had this incredible defense that it just was phenomenal last year. You were shutting everybody down until the NFC Championship game, which they were like, you know what, guys, never mind. We don't feel like playing anymore. But
I think if that game would have happened in Minnesota, it'd have been a very different game.
Yeah, and you could have potentially, won the Super Bowl in your stadium, and I don't think I would have ever heard the end of that ever. So.
Oh yeah, that would have been the worst thing to ever happen for Packer fans.
Yes.
And you got one ring, good for you.
Yeah,
it would have been but we won it at home.
Yep, that's exactly what the rebuttal would have been every single time, and I don't think that my heart nor patience could have taken that. So thank you to the Minnesota defense last year in the NFC Championship game. I appreciate you very much.
I can only put so much that I'm on the defense because Keenum got a little too loose.
Yeah,
and every time we got close to getting the ball in the end zone, he gave it back to him, and there's only so much the defense can do if you keep gassing them out and keep on the field all day long.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. Yeah, and so this season, you obviously bring in the big guns. You got your man, you got Kirk Cousins. So when he's signed, what are your initial reactions? Are you happy? Are you kind of a little nervous? Are you pissed? What do you got for me?
It was a really mixed bag. I've seen Cousins ball out, even against us, and go into like shootout mode, which I don't like. Which is and that's the thing that made me feel better because he can go into shootout mode, and I can't remember the last quarterback we had since Favre that was capable of going into shootout mode.
Yeah.
And I don't want to take away from what Bridgewater did like during his rookie season or soft part of the sophomore season or what Keenum did last year, but there was not a whole lot of high-flying games.
No.
You take out a few, like, what was his name? Matt, I can't think of his name.
Which
he played for us a couple years.
He was a Vikings player. Do you want me to quickly look it up and I can tell you and pretend?
He was a veteran, like, journeyman quarterback. It's not Matt Flynn, it's Matt somebody, but outside of like a couple anomaly games, like shootouts, like there wasn't, high flying games.
It wasn't Matt Castle, was it?
Yes, Matt Castle.
Oh, okay.
Like we went into the Eagles stadium and blew them out like 48 to like 10.
Yeah.
It was like the game after Peterson got hurt.
Oh,
Peterson
you're right.
went out of that game hurt.
Yep. I gotcha. So you're
and I think we were like 2-10 at that time, so it was crazy.
So you're hoping you get that Kirk Cousins at least, that one that could kind of be like the playmaker who can move the ball deep down the field. Because I feel like the amount that you guys paid him is obviously record-setting. The fact that it's all guaranteed money, the fact that it's only 3 years. So in 3 years, the guy could be a free agent again. But are you?
He could.
Are you thinking?
I think.
God.
I think because we were the first team to give that kind of money on a fully guaranteed, because I think there's been some fully guaranteed contracts, but like much smaller.
Yeah.
To give like the premier top tier fully guaranteed contract, I think that'll buy us some goodwill in 3 years because he's going to want to keep the people he has around him because that's something he didn't have in Washington.
I agree.
He didn't have a Diggs, a Rudolph, a Thielen, the Dalvin Cook, Latavius. I mean, he's going to have some weapons around him, and I think he's going to want to keep that instead of going for how much more money does he need? He's by the time this is over, he's going to clear like $140 million.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
So would you want to go for a ring, or do you want to go to play for the Browns?
Yeah, I mean, like, you're 100% correct with that. I would just think from a fan's standpoint, like, that is a lot of money to throw at a guy who, I got to be honest, like, I don't put Kirk Cousins in the elite category like you just said. Considering how hot and cold he has been, he can go and be that shootout kind of guy, but I just think that's like a really large bill. Yeah,
and we can take that back to how many truly elite quarterbacks are there that are every week 100% on their game?
Yeah.
Never. Okay, I'll give you Aaron Rodgers for 99% of the time. I'll give you Tom Brady for 99% of the time.
Yeah.
Outside of that, Matt Ryan, I've seen him shit the bed.
Yep.
In person, and he was the top paid quarterback that year.
Yeah.
Eli Manning, 2 Super Bowl rings. He got benched last year for a rookie.
Yep.
So these are all guys making. So why not spend the money?
Yeah. All right. That makes sense. Okay. So your argument more is, listen, in the age of where there are very few elite quarterbacks, you got to just go for the best one available. And arguably during the free agency, like he was the best guy available, so, and you kind of roll with it.
Look at this guy. I mean, if you give the guy one thing, he bet on himself every year, and he's made it work for him.
Yeah. I see
so,
that.
I mean, I'm going to let him bet on himself again. I mean, knock on wood, outside of him getting injured,
yeah,
as long as we get middle average to elite play, it's not a bad deal. I mean, and again, it's a 3-year deal. And if we didn't bone ourselves, we were able to re-sign at least half of our needed re-signees. We still have next season to re-sign the rest of them.
Yeah.
So our defense, we re-signed all the key players except for, I think Barr is the only one we haven't re-signed yet.
You don't have to.
We
it's
re-signed
okay.
Kendrick.
You could leave him. It's fine. You can just forget about him. You don't have to. I'm letting you know that it's okay.
But all the starters from last year and all the depth players, the key depth players like Daniil Hunter, are coming back this year, and they're signed long-term contracts.
Yeah. So that being said, so your team, I would argue, and I'm going to give this to you, and this doesn't happen often. On paper, you look like the best team in the NFC North. I think that'd be fair to say, because you obviously have a much better defense. You have the offensive weaponry, whether it's Dalvin Cook returning, like you said, with Diggs, Rudolph, Thielen. You have the weapons that really could make your team Super Bowl worthy. And I just vomited a little bit in my mouth. But is that really where all the thoughts are of the Vikings loyal fandom? Are they thinking Super Bowl this year? Because on paper, you guys look pretty damn good.
The diehard Vikings fans right now that live in the minutia are thinking about the front 5 guys that are protecting Kirk Cousins, because we're playing another game of musical chairs this year. Last year, our starting 5 didn't play together until the first game of the year.
Yeah.
Then they did a admirable job of that, but we had one of those guys retire. 2 of them are hurt right now, and one of the guys is on IR for the year. So we're throwing everything back up in the air. Plus, Tony Soprano died.
Yeah.
So, he was the offensive line coach. Sad that he's 53 when he died.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
So that's another, that's either going to galvanize them or give them an excuse to crumble.
Yeah. So looking at the team now, that's where you see the glaring weakness as being the offensive line, because if Kirk Cousins doesn't have time to throw the ball, obviously it doesn't matter how elite you are if you're getting sacked all the time.
Yeah, because, hyperbole aside, and it's not just me being prideful, take that away, and I'll put any of our position units against any other position unit in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. I mean, why not? I mean, like you have the proof, you know what I mean? Like you guys went to the NFC Championship game with a backup quarterback, with a missing running back. You did it. So you look at it this year, and if I'm not mistaken, the amount of hype that is behind this team right now, it actually kind of reminds me, and I'm purposely making this connection to, you remember the good old Philadelphia Eagles, the dream team back then, where they got like everybody and they put them all together and were like, go, 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 like we're going to win a Super Bowl. Except the difference here is that you have like that homegrown talent that you got through the draft, you built your defense through the draft, you did it all the right way. And then you brought in the heavy hitter quarterback.
Yeah, outside of, there's nobody really on our offense that is not homegrown outside the quarterback, like you said.
Yeah.
And the defense outside of Linval Joseph and Sheldon Richardson and old Terrence, who is still playing at 40. I don't know how, but that's mostly homegrown defense too, and they've been playing together for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah, and you started doing this years ago in the draft, like picking those big defensive guys, and again, you built it the right way, and in the long run, your team should be viable. So it's not like a Broncos situation where you're just throwing a ton of money at everybody to bring them in.
Right, and then in 4 years or 3 years, you got to pay everybody again, and you can't afford it.
Exactly, and so that's why I want to say, I don't want to say I was surprised, but I was a little concerned again of the fact that you're giving that you do have a lot riding on Kirk Cousins. So what is essentially the backup? Because I think you have a good, even if Kirk Cousins goes down, you have a good team. Last year proved that. That being said,
yeah.
What happens if Kirk Cousins doesn't work out?
Well, I mean, he's going to play the year unless he's hurt. He's going to play, and that's just how it is. I mean, if he just totally stinks the place up, then I think they start looking for a quarterback next year in the draft. But we've got 2 solid quarterbacks right now, backups, one the rookie and one that's had, game experience. So they can always step in, and, we saw what happened last year when, the cream has to rise to the top.
Yeah.
Case Keenum had his banner year.
Yeah.
The year before that, Bradford had one of his best career years.
Yeah. And I think it also helps,
a couple of years ago, an old 40-year-old had his best career year.
It's very true. It's very, very true. I mean, you take a look at the team. You're obviously built for success, unfortunately. And so you look at this coming season, and one of the big differences has nothing even to do with your team, but it is the fact that Aaron Rodgers is back. Thankfully, he's up to speed. He's healthy. He got some new weapons. And so that being said, when you take a look at your schedule, obviously there's the Packers. What games kind of stand out to you of these are going to be the ones that are going to challenge this team?
Well, and I think that goes more to the point than Aaron Rodgers is back. We have a first-place schedule to play this year. Yeah. So we've got Aaron Rodgers twice, plus we have the other 3 first-place teams.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if I was to run down this into, the Rams at their house, that's a defense.
Yeah.
The Eagles, that's a defense.
You got the good old Saints game again. I mean, that'll just be a fun one to watch.
That's going to be fun. Thankfully, that's back at home, so we don't have to deal with the Who Dat Nation.
Yep. I mean, you got some heavy hitters on here. I mean, it's very similar to the Packers one, but you have the Patriots are on here, the Saints are on here, the Seahawks.
Yeah, the Patriots are late in the year at their house.
Yep. I know the feeling.
Seahawks late in the year at their house. Bears late in the year at their house, but that's an indoor game. Miami will be a break. I don't know. I think the divisional games and then the first place teams.
Yeah.
The Rams, the Eagles, and the Patriots. I think those are going to be the big ones that we're going to have to contend with.
Yeah, and so that being said, looking at this division as a whole, because I feel like, and the often forgotten about team in our division is the Lions. The reason I'm not even mentioning the Bears is because I don't see it yet. I don't think that they have the pieces yet to really compete within this division. That's my opinion, just because I think they're still growing. The Lions are kind of always there, at least in the running. So when you take a look at where you think this division's going to kind of iron itself out, how do you look at the rankings of where teams are going to finish this year in the North?
If I had to rank it, I'd say Vikings, Packers, Lions, Bears.
Okay. Do you
if the Lions defense can get their shit together, I think there's a strong possibility if we all split that we could put 3 people into the playoffs.
Okay. All right. That's fair enough. Do you think now? Here's a little bonus question for you. I was talking to Mark Murphy, and he said this, and I was kind of like, maybe we could. Do you think that our division currently is the strongest or one of the strongest divisions in football?
Yeah, I do. I think it's one of the strongest, but I also think the NFC is the strongest conference right now also.
Oh, definitely.
And it's just everybody beating each other up, and then you've got the AFC and the Patriots and the Steelers
Yep.
cruising through with little brother Jaguars trying to strap their way in.
Yeah. Yeah, the AFC I have found is just really not like you see the same players every year. And what I mean by players, I mean like you
Like
see
the
the same teams.
NBA playoffs.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So that being said, I mean the only other team that I'm looking, or the other division, excuse me, that I feel like can contend, like you have the South, where depending on what the Panthers are doing, the Falcons and the Saints are always in it. The East, the Giants could have a comeback year. You obviously have the Eagles and the Super Bowl champs. Depends on what the Cowboys do. And then you have the West with the Rams and potentially the 49ers. Like you have an NFC that is completely up in the air.
Well, you also have the Seahawks, and you never know what they're going to do in the West.
I hope they just crumble. I really I got a good feeling this year that they're just gonna suck, and that would make me so happy.
Well, they were another one of those Moneyball teams that went out and bought a bunch of talent.
Yes.
Which brings me to a question about your beloved Packers.
Of course.
Do you think that your tight end experiment is going to work out better than it did with Seattle?
Oh yes, definitely. I think for a number of reasons. One. And this is not just like, the optimist in me. It's that in Seattle, they used Jimmy Graham. They used him more last year, and his numbers obviously improved, but they used him as a blocker. And Jimmy Graham, he doesn't block well. And that's not what he does. And if you've ever listened to an announcer, did you know that he played basketball? It's one of those things that, like, he goes out there, he spreads the field. He's obviously a huge red zone target and threat. And you have now Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball. I think it's a recipe for success. And the fact that we brought in Mercedes Lewis, so he's going to be like the blocker, because we haven't had a good tight ends on our team since Jermichael Finley. And we were going to like build an entire team around that guy, and then obviously he got hurt. And so I think that this just the Packers president put it this way: it's kind of like we traded Jordy Nelson for Jimmy Graham in a way. And if we get the Jimmy Graham from New Orleans, I think that's a great deal. Well, as much as I love Jordy Nelson, I think it's a good deal because it gives us something that we haven't had. And then on top of that, you throw the receivers. I think our offense is looking pretty damn good.
How's your running back situation looking?
Listen, I'm actually pretty excited about our running back situation because while
I wasn't being sarcastic, I don't have time to watch preseason of every all the teams.
Yeah, no, Williams is looking great. The guy is blocking very, very well. He's a dynamic runner. I think it's more just of what are we going to do as a sense of like who's going to be our starter. Ty Montgomery, I would think they're going to move him back to wide receiver and kind of fill in that like Randall Cobb role of like being in the slot. But I think the fact that we have so many options and they proved themselves last year's to be good running backs, I'm actually pretty darn happy with it because I don't think it's a situation where you have like a running back by committee and it's kind of like a mess. It's kind of like all three of them bring something different to the table. And while I don't think like any of them are like an Eddie Lacy. And what I mean by that is like good Eddie Lacy before he decided to eat everything. I'm talking like, when he was actually impressive and you enjoyed watching him. I think that...
So you're saying I don't want to draft any of you guys in my fantasy football league?
No, absolutely not. See, that I would not do that. As a Packers fan, I'm telling you not to do it. Now, I could be completely wrong, but I don't know who they give the ball to. So at that point, yeah, it's a complete and total toss-up.
So we were talking about quarterbacks and, the massive amount of money that's going to get paid.
Yep.
How are you feeling about that looming over the season?
I'm not too concerned because I think a deal's going to get done. And let's say worst case scenario, a deal doesn't get done. We still can tag him. We have him for a few more years. And again, that's worst case scenario, which I don't think is going to happen. That being said... Yeah,
but you know how much a tag would cost?
Oh, yeah, it'd be insane. And that being
like $45 million?
Oh, I know. And it would hurt my soul. But, like, he's worth it. He's the best player on the team. So at that point...
That and the odds of you guys getting a third Hall of Fame quarterback in a row
would be amazing. And, yes, well, listen, it doesn't matter because we already have a Hall of Fame quarterback in DeShone Kaiser. May have heard of him before. Yeah. Talk about elite quarterbacks. obviously Deshaun Kaiser. Yeah, he's coming for you. And of course we have Brett Hundley, who, yeah. Anyway, so more importantly, talking about that contract, I think it's going to get done. But what I'm really curious to see is not if it's going to get done. It's just what is it going to look like? Because with Kirk Cousins being signed, with Matt Ryan being signed, is it going to be a fully guaranteed? You saw rumors earlier this year that it might be like a weird-ass contract where he can opt out if he's not the highest-paid quarterback that he can be. Like, they can essentially just restructure his contract. I'm very curious because, as we were talking about in the beginning, you know, you do have a very limited number of elite quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers is one of them. And you see all these other quarterbacks who are getting paid those elite numbers. Now what the hell do you do when you actually have to pay the guy?
Well, and that's kind of the elite pay versus the elite quarterback. Every new quarterback contract for a top-tier quarterback, and top tier is probably the top half of the NFL when it comes to signing money.
Yeah.
They just keep leapfrogging each other. A couple of years ago, Andrew Luck was the top-paid quarterback for all of like a hot minute.
Yep.
And then the next guy, and then the next guy. So the longer you guys wait to sign him, I think the more it's going to hurt.
I see a deal getting done this year. I don't see why not.
Do you think mid-season they're going to get a contract done?
I think so. Yeah. Because I think it's in everybody's best interest to do it. Because again, he's expressed that he wants to stay. The Packers obviously want to keep him. And talking with Mark, he loves him because why not? He's the best player. But at the same time, you know, you need to do it smart, and that you need to do it in a way that's not going to be detrimental to the team, and it's not going to sink future hopes. Because while it would be great for us to win 4 Super Bowls in a row, if we suck for the next 15 years after that, you know, is that worth it? That's a great question.
You can always hope for one of those Brady contracts where I swear that the day he retires, Bob Kraft's going to send him a check for $25 million.
Oh yeah, he's gonna be paying like a dowry. He's just gonna like have bundles of cash.
Team-friendly deals. Yeah,
exactly. And Rodgers has expressed that, you know, it's a partnership because he wants the team to do well, and he's been vocal about, you know, adding members of the team, especially to the defense, because the defense has lost them so many games, and he knows that, and I know that, and the Packers know that. So I think they'll get a deal done. I think it'll be beneficial for both of them, and we can all just get along and hold hands and sing Kumbaya. That's what I hope.
Okay, so what are your expectations for this year for your beloved Packers?
So this season, taking a look at the Packers, with a revamped offense, we got a lot of young blood in there. We just re-signed Devontae Adams, who has had a great 2 to 3 years. I'm excited of what the outlook is because I look at it this way. I'm not even looking at the defense for right now. If I look at the offense, I think bare minimum, they're the same as they were with Aaron Rodgers behind the helm, but I think they also could be better with the additions of Jimmy Graham and a running game. Now, that being said, the defense usually loses us games. If the defense can just be middle of the road average and not lose us games, I think we're already in a much better position than we have been in previous seasons. Because,
well, see, and that was my position about Kirk Cousins.
Exactly.
Because he was averaging like 34 points a game, and they were like, yeah, but how many times did he won? I'm like, he's putting up 34 points. Our defense was allowing like the league, like first in the league, and like 20 points on average.
Yeah.
So if he can put up 34 and we can keep it under 20,
you win
I
games.
think the math works out.
Yeah. And so, I mean, with Aaron Rodgers at the helm, I kind of like you talking about like putting any players up against, you know, any position against the NFL. With Aaron Rodgers at the helm, I always believe we have an opportunity or a chance to win the game because he's literally put that team on his shoulders for so long and has made the Packers look so much better than they were. You look at that 15-1 season, that's not because of the defense. And so you look at even the past few years, it's not because of the defense. We haven't had 2014, we had a pretty good defense. Obviously went to the NFC Championship game and blew that. But 2010, when we won the Super Bowl, was the last time we had that, and I wouldn't say elite, but this defense that just knew how to cause a ton of turnovers, do very well, and then that kind of went away. And our defense became a joke. We had a few like runs where like our run defense was good for the first 5 games and then they fell apart. And so, again, with all these additions, you got Wilkerson. You have a young group of cornerbacks who Kevin King looked great. You bring in Tramon Williams. I think they definitely have the potential to be a very good defense this year, but I'm not even asking for that. I'm just asking them to be like middle of the road, just don't lose us games and let Aaron Rodgers go to work.
Right.
So with that being said,
Yeah.
we're winning the Super Bowl. But I have really low expectations. But these are going to be fun games, like with the Vikings. Like I'm actually actively looking forward to these games because like you said, you could have 3 teams from the division that are in the playoffs, but I think both of our teams are going to be at the top, at least fighting for, home field advantage or fighting for a first round bye.
Yeah, I'm really surprised the NFL didn't do their normal put us together in week 17.
Yeah, we're playing the stupid Lions again. Yeah, that would have been a great game. But like I said, I think I wouldn't be surprised if we split. Because I think that's just how good our teams are. And now it's just going to be a matter of, okay, let's go out and play, which I'm just so goddamn ready for football season. I need it in my life.
Yeah, I was so ready, and the preseason came on, and I turned it on, and I was like, oh, I forgot. It's such a shit show in preseason after the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, you get disinterested very quickly.
Now, I will say we played for almost a complete half against the Jaguars, mainly because it was 2 defenses just smashing into each other on either side of the ball, and neither quarterback could move the ball anywhere.
Yeah.
And we were finally like, we know what he did last week. We know this defense is good. We're not going to leave him out there to get hurt. So we pulled him about halfway through the second quarter. But the Jaguars left their starters in for another series, and we put our 2s in on defense against them, and they shut them down. So that made it worth watching, knowing that our 2s could shut down a first team defense or first team offense.
And I think again, I tip my hat to you guys that you guys have depth, and that's something that is crucial. And this is something that you look at even last year. The team like the Eagles, like the Vikings, those teams are built to be successful regardless if one player goes down. The Packers, as they had been in the years previously, are not. When Aaron Rodgers goes down, Packers fans know, like, there's a really, really high chance we're not doing anything that year. We kind of got a little bit of hope with Brett Hundley, but, realistically, he really is that team. And I hope that this year it's a little bit different. In the backup quarterback situation, I don't think it's going to be. I think Deshaun Kaiser's better than Brett Hundley, but that being said, is he going to be able to go out there and win games with everybody on the field? I don't know.
I will secretly tell you this, but don't tell anybody else.
I won't. This won't
going into the championship games. We had 4 quarterbacks. We had a Case Keenum, Blake Bortles, and a Nick Foles, and then that man, Tom Brady.
Yeah.
I said, if Vikings don't win the Super Bowl, I don't care who wins it, as long as it wasn't Brady.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was rooting for Jaguars to beat Brady, so I'd have something to root for other than the Eagles.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think everybody except New England was rooting for the Jaguars. Even if it would have been like the worst Super Bowl ever, at least it wasn't going to be Brady again.
Well, because you had 3 teams in there that had never won a Super Bowl.
Yep.
And Brady. So anybody but Brady. Should have been bumper stickers all over Minnesota.
Exactly. So last question I got for you is that looking ahead, so Kirk Cousins, you're obviously hoping that he works out. So looking in the next 5 years, I just want to throw it on the wall, see if it sticks prediction. You think your team's going to win their first Super Bowl in the next 5 years?
I do. I think if we don't get it done this year, they're going to spend a lot of draft capital on the O-line. Everything else is kind of already shored up.
Yeah.
And then they'll keep whoever they circle it, for their picks for the O-line. If they're not there, then they'll do what Spillman always does, and that's just pick the best player available. And that's how we ended up with Danielle Hunter. He's a freak of nature, monster player. He's like 22, been in the league 3 years.
Yeah.
And I think as long as they keep drafting well and Kirk Cousins plays like the good Kirk Cousins, then yeah, I think we'll see our first Super Bowl.
All right. Well, obviously, Minnesota has a lot to look forward to. And as a Packers fan, I have to admit, I will take great pride in crushing your dreams like you crushed Aaron Rodgers' collarbone last season.
Well, I do remember the last time I was on the show 2 years ago, you agreed to have me back on, and I agreed to come back on.
Yes.
After the first game that against the Packers that was played. It actually was the last game that year.
Yeah, this was true. Yeah, good old week 17.
So week 2, do you want to? After week 2, do you want to recap week 2 together and maybe make some kind of wager on the week 12 game?
Ooh, getting spicy. All right, so here's what we'll do. So I got a Vikings fan lined up for week 2, just like the week before, but I'll bring you back on. Well, you come on after the game, and
okay,
and we'll make some magic, then we'll make things interesting. All right.
Yeah, I don't have to come on for the pregame. I just want to come on for the postgame.
Love it. That's fantastic. And if the Vikings lose, like, I'll just keep on dialing your number, and I'll just be like, oh man, I keep missing it.
I promise to be a gentleman. I'll answer.
You'll answer and be like, hey, this is Tom. Nope. Click. John, it's been an absolute pleasure having you back on. Where can people find you to get all of the wonderfulness that is you?
If you want to watch all my raging on Sunday afternoons, you can follow me on Twitter at John Parie.
Beautiful, and that is Parie.
Correct.
Just to make sure everybody knows. But John, it's been a pleasure having you. I would wish you luck this season, but I'm not.
No injuries. No
injuries. I do wish that, because if we are going to beat the Vikings, I want to beat the best Vikings team that you got.
All right. Sounds good, Tom.
John, it was great talking to you. I'll talk to you soon, buddy, and I'll see you after week 2.
Sounds good.
Catch you later, buddy.
All right.
Bye-bye. Well, that was John Parie, our first Vikings fan of the season. I just have this nasty taste in my mouth. Ugh. It's going to be a damn good season. I can't wait for football. You could always find me at TomGrossiComedy.com, TomGrossI Comedy, or Tom Grossi Comedy on the Twitters and the Instagrams. Check out TomGrossiComedy.com to get your debut comedy album from moi, Allergic to Fun. You could also find that on iTunes and also on Amazon. So check that out. And, of course, Podcast, we're here on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, a bunch of other things, and, of course, here on YouTube. But thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And, as always, go Pack Go.